Om Vishwandarpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyannijantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahirivod Bhutan Yatha Nidraya Yasakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Nama Idam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. ॐ नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तन्तोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठं अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यै सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे नमः श्री परमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रियब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ I welcome everyone to the 10th class of the Fundamentals of Vedanta series. Purnatvam, unconditional fulfillment. We started off saying that this is what we are all seeking. And the benefit of the study of Vedanta is exactly this Purnatvam. But we said that for the benefit to be realized by somebody, one needs to be an adhikari, a candidate. And we said that the candidate has to meet three criteria. First is the candidate should be a mumukshuhu, a direct seeker of this Purnatvam. The second is that the candidate, the adhikari, should see the indispensable connection between the study of Vedanta and the benefit, the irreplaceable connection. And the third is that the candidate should have a certain preparedness of mind, known as chitta shuddhi. So the candidate should be a mumukshuhu, the candidate should be a jignasuhu, and third being that the candidate should have chitta shuddhi, a certain preparedness of the mind. So we are looking into the first aspect of this. That is, we were looking into the question of how does an adhikari become an adhikari? And for that, we have to answer these three questions. How does the adhikari become a mumukshuhu? How does the adhikari become a jignasuhu? And how does the adhikari get this chitta shuddhi? So we are looking into the first question of how the adhikari becomes a mumukshuhu. How does the adhikari become a direct seeker of this purnatvam, a direct seeker of moksha? So when analyzing that, we said a study of Purusharthas is important, and we got into a study of the four Purusharthas, Arthaha, Kamaha, Dharmaha, and Mokshaha. We said that just by the pursuit of security and pleasure, Arthaha and Kamaha, one cannot arrive at this Purnatvam. And in the last class, we saw a variety of reasons why that is the case. And then we got into the discussion of Dharma Purushartha. We looked at three meanings of dharma. Chodana, Lakshana, Artha, Dharma. Dharma is the lifestyle that comes out of the various vidhi and nishedha, the do's and don'ts prescribed by the Veda. That is the first meaning that we saw. The duties, values, and attitudes that are gathered from the Veda. The second meaning that we saw was dharana dharma, that which leads to harmony, that which leads to well-being at the level of the individual, family, society, and the environment. That is dharma. And we said an implementation of the first meaning leads to the second meaning, which is this harmony and well-being. Then we looked at the third meaning of dharma, which is adrishtam, the unseen result that arises from right action or wrong action. Papam, Punyam, and Papam. And we said that this Dharma Purushartha, this Dharma is what gets carried over to the next birth. Artha and Kamaha are left behind. And this Dharma determines what happens in future births. And it also determines the kind of circumstances that one gets even in future in the current birth. So that is why Dharma becomes important, because it first of all leads to harmony at all these different levels, well-being at all these different levels. And second is that it leads to artha and kamaha being acquired more easily in the future because the circumstances are conducive. And we said it is not just for material pursuit that one needs dharma. Even for spiritual journey, even for the spiritual journey, in order to have an obstacle-free spiritual journey, one needs to have this punyam. So this is what dharma can give. Dharma can give material benefits, and dharma can also give this punyam that results in an obstacle-free spiritual journey. Then we got into a discussion of the Moksha Purushartha. And we said that in order for moksha to become relevant, one needs to discover the problem of samsara. Just like in order for food to become relevant, one has to be hungry. So similarly, there has to be this spiritual hunger for somebody to say that moksha is a purushartha that I want to pursue. So first, we need to understand what this samsara is, what this discovery of the problem of samsara is. So this discovery of the problem of samsara is the discovery that my pursuit of purnatvam through the first three purusharthas, artha, kamaha, and dharmaha, is futile. They cannot lead me to purnatvam. They cannot lead me to this unconditional fulfillment that I am seeking. This has to be discovered. So the starting point of samsara is this conclusion that I am a limited mortal being. I am apurnaha. He said there's this conclusion that I'm apurnaha, and there are various things around me. There are various situations that just reinforce this apurnatvam. We saw all of this at the body level, at the mind level, at the family level, professional level, possessions level, etc. And the fact that I am this small, tiny speck in this wide universe. So all of these reinforce my conclusion that I am apurnaha. So this conclusion is the starting point. Well, clearly we have said, I want this unconditional fulfillment. I want purnatvam. And there's this wide gap between my experience and what I really want to be. And therefore, I conclude, the corollary of this conclusion is that I need to become purnaha. I need to somehow get this fulfillment. And for that, the only means that I see are the pursuit of artha and kamaha. I say I'm not happy with myself, I'm not secure with myself, and therefore I need to pursue these pleasures and I need to pursue security. I need to pursue artha and kamaha. And then for the sake of future artha and kamaha, I also need to pursue dharma, provided I have some shraddha in the Veda. For a materialist, it is just confined to artha and kamaha. So I am in this pursuit of artha and kamaha. And now what happens? We analyze this. That let us say I want to pursue X or Y. Now what happens if I get that X or Y? If I now possess that X or Y? Basically, there is a certain fulfillment. There's no doubt about it. Because the desire that I had for that X or Y is quenched. And when that desire is quenched, the mind comes to a certain at peace with itself for the time being. And in that period, there is a certain fulfillment that arises. Now, I enjoy that period. I enjoy that fulfillment. But that fulfillment is not lasting because my conclusion is there that soon comes to the forefront again. And I say that I am Apurnaha. So we saw why this approach does not work. Because this fulfillment is not a lasting fulfillment. This fulfillment is a transient, a temporary phenomenon. We saw why this approach does not work. There are various reasons for it. Firstly, there are these three fundamental contradictions that we saw. That the objects are not secure in themselves. Anything that I project, I will get security from. That object itself doesn't have that inherent security. We saw the example of money. Some people keep their money underneath their mattress or somewhere else. And that can be bitten away by rats or termites, as we saw. And to avoid that, people keep money in the bank. But there too, it can be bitten away by this unseen thing called inflation. So money isn't inherently secure. And even many of the other things that we may procure, like even a refrigerator, for the sake of my future food security, that refrigerator can break down. So basically, all these things from which I hope to get my security, they have no inherent security in themselves. We took the example of fire. Fire and heat are inseparable. Wherever fire is, there is heat. And this we can say that fire inherently has heat. But in the same way, the objects of the world don't have inherent security. Similarly, we said they don't have inherent happiness. I am trying to draw happiness out of objects in the world, but then they don't have any inherent happiness to give me. If the object has inherent happiness, then it should give happiness to all people at all times. And we demolished that idea because we see that the same object, we took the example of Parikai Sambhar, for example, or even the female snake. It gives happiness to some section of the world, but it gives unhappiness to the rest of the world. So objects don't have inherent happiness. They don't give happiness to everybody uniformly. The second thing is even a certain object doesn't give happiness uniformly even to the same person, because over a period of time when the novelty factor goes down, then one gets satiated with that object. And then one starts to look for more novel experiences. This is what happens when somebody goes to a hill station and for the first few days, everybody is happily posing around for photographs with smiling pictures and all that. And then after the fourth or fifth day, people start saying, what more is there to see here? And then they have to plan their next trip somewhere else. So there is no inherent happiness in objects. This is the second fundamental contradiction. The third fundamental contradiction is I seek security and happiness from certain relationships. But those people that I try to relate to for the sake of security and happiness, they themselves are apurnaha and they are seeking for purnatvam from the world. And in this case, they are thinking that I'm going to give them the purnatvam that they are seeking. And I'm thinking that they are going to give me the purnatvam I am seeking. And so this results in a struggle in the relationship because both sides have expectations from each other. So this is the third fundamental contradiction. And then we saw that every gain in the world, every gain involves a certain loss. I may procure a house, but then now I have to deal with the mortgage. So there's always this trade-off in terms of money or my time or added responsibility or something like that, that I have to let go. I have to let go of a certain thing in order to gain another thing. There is no such thing that is a pure gain in the world. The only exception to this is moksha, and we will see more on that later. And then we also said that this world is inherently unsustainable, uncontrollable, unpredictable. So there is no way I can arrange all these things around me in such a way that they just keep giving me happiness and security. Because things will fall apart, things will go wrong. And when that happens, that results in this helplessness, anger, frustration, depression, HAFD, which are the symptoms of samsara. Anytime there is helplessness, anger, frustration, or depression, we should understand that that is a symptom of samsara. And if somebody thinks that they have arranged everything around them perfectly because they have so much resources that whatever breaks down, they can fix it and all that. If somebody thinks that everything is going fine for me, I'm enjoying, we said there is still the unseen opponent that we have to confront, which is my own prarabdha karma. And I don't know where the next blow is going to come from, because a human being is born because of a mixture of punya and papa. And so those papas have to fructify, and I can never predict where the next blow is going to come from. In fact, one can even never predict how long one is going to live. There's an example of Parikshit that is given. That Parikshit had this curse that he would die in 1 week, and or 10 days, whatever that was. And um, it is actually called Bhagavata Saptaha, so it should be 1 week. So Parikshit went to listen to Bhagavatam during that period. And he was told that you are actually lucky. You know that for 1 week you will not be touched by Yamaraj. Nobody else has that guarantee. So my own prarabdha karma. I don't know where the next blow is going to come from. So nobody can say that I have arranged everything in such a way that these will keep giving me happiness and security. Because I don't know even my future, what is going to happen, say this afternoon. We said that all of this results in a struggle to try to get Purnatvam by arranging the world around me, by the pursuit of Artha and Kamaha, and for those who have Shraddha in the Veda, by the pursuit of Dharma. Because for a materialist, the pursuit of Dharma is for the sake of future Artha and Kama only. So as all of this is happening, one is getting older. And Dinayaminyau Sayam Prataha Shishira Vasantau Punarayataha Kala Kridati Gachatyayuhu Tadapina Munchati Asha Vayuhu. One gets older. But as one gets older, the sense of insecurity and lack of happiness only increases. Because the body starts to give troubles. At the younger age, at least, though that one didn't have to worry about that. As one gets older, the body starts to give all kinds of troubles. So we saw this federal problem, FE, there is fear about whether I'm going to get bedridden, what is going to happen, etc. There is depression because the same body that was a source of joy is now a source of sorrow. There is regrets. There are regrets about the past, omissions and commissions that I can do nothing about. And then there is loneliness because my companions have begun to depart. And the next generation is busy with their own artha and kama pursuits. So nobody has any time to spend with this person. So one is apurna when soon after one is born, one realizes that one is apurna. For the whole life, one is struggling to get to this purnatvam. One remains apurna. And even when dying, one remains apurna. And Vedanta says this doesn't end there. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathade shayanam. So this continues in the next life. And in the next life, what happens? The story is the same. And the next life after that, the story is the same. Basically, one is trying to struggling to remove this apurnatvam, but one is not successful. So this is the struggle. This struggle is never ending. This struggle is called samsara. Many people don't even realize that this struggle is never ending. For them, it's a very short-sighted approach that I somehow need to, get to my next fulfillment and so on. Nobody has this long-term view. So one has to, Vedanta says that one has to first discover that I am imprisoned in this problem. I am caught up in this problem. Because only when one appreciates that, and only when one sees this problem as something that I want to get rid of, will one pursue moksha. So what kind of a person will discover this problem? That is the question. So we took the materialist. The materialist is just pursuing artha and kama. And even if required, the materialist has no concept of dharma. Maybe there is some concept of dharma in terms of just ethics, etc. But no formal concept of dharma as introduced by the Veda. So if artha and kama are predominant, the materialist has no issues, bending the rules this way, that way in order to accomplish that. For the materialist, the world is the means and the world is the end. And there is no worry about this next life and all that, whether it's there or not, it is not of my concern. That's what the materialist feels. So because there is no pursuit of dharma, the materialist doesn't accrue any major punyam. On the other hand, because there is all these, bending of rules for the sake of pursuit of artha and kama, the materialist may accrue major papam. And what the Veda says is this papam has to fructify. And so the materialist in future janmas may take long detours into lower life forms. So finally, the samsara is a chakra. It's cyclic, as we saw. The same phenomenon repeats. But in case of the materialist, it repeats, but then one takes detours into lower life forms and then may come back into a human form. But then the same story continues. And then again, because of a dharma, one takes to lower life forms and then eventually comes back. But this is a cycle. And for such a person, the cycle continues. And there is no foreseeable end to it. Now, the second person we want to talk about is the religious materialist. So the Veda really doesn't want to leave anybody behind. The Veda is interested in the spiritual growth of humanity. The Veda says that even if you're a materialist, come to me and I will help you accomplish your material goals. But there is one condition, that when pursuing your material goals, you have to pursue dharma. You should not let go of dharma. But I can help you pursue. There are many unseen factors around that you are not able to see, and the approach that I am going to suggest is going to help you take care of the hidden variables that you are not able to see. Your effort that you're putting in is something you can control. But in spite of your effort, many things go wrong, and that is because of hidden variables, your own karma that you cannot see. And therefore, if you want your karma to be conducive, you need to follow dharma, and therefore you come to me. This is what the Veda says. So the materialist sees that yes, this is reasonable, that something, the religious materialist sees that there is something that I can definitely, there are a lot of things perhaps I cannot see. So I want those things to be conducive to my material pursuits. So the materialist gets persuaded and becomes a religious materialist. This religious materialist is still interested in artha and kama only, not interested in spiritual growth. So the idea is he approaches the Veda in order to use religion, in order to use dharma, in order to use Ishvara for accomplishments of materials. Therefore, for him, Ishvara is the means, dharma is the means, and the world is the end. For the materialist, the world is the means, the world is the end. For the religious materialist, religion, Ishvara, dharma becomes the means, and the world becomes the end. So, being religious, this person is afraid of the retribution of karma. And therefore, this person tries to stick to dharma as much as possible. But all of this person's prayers, worship, etc., they are called sakama karma because they are meant for the sake of accomplishment of artha and kama. So he has materialistic prayers or prayers from which he is seeking materialistic goals like wealth, name, fame, power, prosperity, worldly success. Or if there is some family issue, then seeking some freedom from that trouble, or seeking, a marriage for a daughter, or children for the grandchildren, or whatever it be. So all of that comes under artha and kama. So all of this person's puja, parayanam, japa, whatever the Veda says, duties, values, attitudes, he tries to adopt those. But then that is for the sake of all of these worldly benefits. Now, how does this person's trajectory, we saw this trajectory in the cyclic samsara, how does this person's, the religious materialist trajectory differ from the materialist? We say that this sakama karmas that this person does gives a certain punyam. And that punyam yields material results in the future. And this person avoids dharma, avoids transgressing dharma. So this person doesn't accrue any major papam, hopefully. Now there is one more thing the Veda says, that for your sakama karmas to be successful, you have to do certain nishkama karmas, karmas for which artha and kamaha is not the main objective. But somebody else is the beneficiary. They are paropakara karmas. And all of this pancha mahayagya, dhanam, etc., they come under paropakara karmas because the beneficiary is somebody else. The Veda says if your sakama karmas have to be successful, you have to do some of these nishkama karmas. So he does the nishkama karmas also. But again, his goal is artha and kama. For the sake of success of sakama karmas that are meant for artha and kama, he also engages in nishkama karmas. But these nishkama karmas produce a certain punyam that results in spiritual growth. Even though this person doesn't want it, he does the nishkama karma not for the sake of spiritual growth, but as a byproduct of whatever he does, he gets some spiritual growth. So basically, hopefully, if you look at this person's trajectory as opposed to the materialist trajectory in samsara, this person is still in the cycle of samsara, but he can avoid the lower life forms because he's not transgressing dharma. And similarly, due to the little bit of spiritual punyam that gets added because of the nishkama karmas, he may get slightly better lives, where this person can pursue the spiritual growth some more. So this person is still primarily a materialist. And therefore, he's still in this cycle of samsara. And this person, as long as he's a religious materialist, he still doesn't appreciate that he's stuck in this problem of samsara and he has to somehow get out of it. And then the third person that we want to talk about is somebody who is religiously spiritual. Or if there was a word, we said materialist, religious materialist. So if we want this religiously spiritual term to end in an ist like the others, we could probably use the term religious spiritualist, perhaps. I don't know if there is a legal word called spiritualist in English, but that is one possibility. You could say religiously spiritual or religious spiritualist. So this person has somehow come to some satsanga, and we can only attribute it to some past punyam. And that in that satsanga, this person comes to learn about some of the things that we are talking about. And then this person becomes interested in spirituality. So he says, now I want to use religion for my spiritual growth. For such a person, Ishvara, such a person, the world then becomes a means, and Ishvara becomes the end. Materialist, world is the means, world is the end. For the religious materialist, Ishvara is the means and world is the end. But for the religiously spiritual person, Ishvara is the end and world becomes the means. So he says, I want to use religion for the sake of my spiritual growth. And as opposed to the religious materialist who primarily engages in all of these sakama karmas, this person primarily engages in nishkama karma. And he adopts a certain approach known as karma yoga. Now, this is a big topic in itself, karma yoga, and we will see that in more detail later. But because this context requires some understanding of it, I'll provide a brief summary of this karma yoga. So basically, what makes a person run around after the world and run around thinking that this is going to give me fulfillment, that is going to give me security, etc. Behind that is this factor called raga dvesha, likes and dislikes. So as we say, this certain fondness develops for things, right? So that tendency is because of raga. And similarly, one may hate certain other things in the world and tries to rearrange the world in such a way that that factor doesn't come in the way. That is because of dvesha. So these raga dveshas are what makes a person run around in the world. Now, what happens is that such a person can never get the leisure or the space in the mind in order to think about these higher goals. So the person will primarily focus on artha and kama and dharma for the sake of artha and kama. So one of the factors that Vedanta says has to come down in the mind, have to be neutralized, are these raga and dvesha. Because these make the mind very preoccupied. When a karta, when the doer dislikes the karma one is doing, that causes disturbance. And similarly, when the bhokta, the experiencer, dislikes the result that one is getting, there is disturbance in the mind. So karta dislikes karma and the bhokta dislikes the experience, the result that one is getting. So what Karma Yoga does is it relates both of these to Ishvara. So Karma Yoga says that you do action with the right attitude, right action and right attitude. What is right action? Right action are actions in keeping with dharma. So you figure out, given a certain situation, what is Samanya Dharma, what is Vishesha Dharma, and then whatever that says, that is your Dharma. So then you do that action. What is expected? That becomes your duty. And you do that duty, even if you don't like it, you do it as your duty, as an offering to Ishvara. So this is called Ishvara Arpana Buddhi. So this karma yogi adopts Ishvara Arpana Buddhi at the time of doing the karma, at the time of performance of the action. He says, even if I don't like it, if it's the right thing to do, I will do it. And even if I like something, if that is the wrong thing to do, I will not do it. So in this way, his own raga and dvesha, his own likes and dislikes become subservient to dharma. So at the karta level, these two ragas and dveshas start to get neutralized. And similarly, when this same karta becomes a bhokta, an experiencer, an enjoyer, and when one gets a certain result, if the result is not in keeping with my expectations, then my ragas and dveshas again rebel, saying, I don't like this. They cause a disturbance in the mind. But then what Karma Yoga says is that you view that as Ishvara's prasada, that this is coming from Ishvara. And when that happens, the Karma Yogi says, even if I don't like what I'm getting, I will accept it as Ishvara's prasada, just with the same attitude like when I go to a temple, I may get a tulasi leaf or some tirtham or some chakar pongal in a good quantity or some vibhuti. Whatever I get, I take it with gracious acceptance as coming from Ishvara. So in the same way, that attitude needs to translate into real life. And so the Karma Yogi says that I will accept whatever I am getting as Ishvara's prasada, that Ishvara needs me to go through this experience for some reason. It is trying to teach me something. So when one accepts experiences in life with the attitude of prasada buddhi, then the ragas and dveshas begin to get neutralized at the level of the bhokta also. So the net result of this karma yoga approach, and we will see this in more detail later, but at this point, what we are trying to say is that the net result of this karma yoga approach is a neutralization of the ragas and dveshas. Such a person's mind begins to be a non-reacting mind. There's something known as, Swamiji uses this term called FIR reduction. So the frequency, F is the frequency, I is the intensity, and R is the recovery period. So FIR reduction of negative reactions, they start to come down. FIR starts to come down. The frequency of negative reactions start to come down. The intensity of negative reactions start to come down. And once one has some negative reaction, the recovery period from it also starts to come down. So this is called samatvam. Bhagavad Gītā uses this term called samatvam. So this person has samatvam, meaning a certain equanimity of mind. When performing the action, he does it with Ishvara Arpana Buddhi. So there is no negative reaction at that point. There is no rebellious mind at that point. One wholeheartedly does that with Ishvara Arpana Buddhi. And similarly, when accepting results, when going through experiences in life, all experiences in life are basically the karma phalam. So at the level of the karma phalam, whatever is the phalam, this person accepts it with prasada buddhi. So when this happens, this person's mind becomes a non-reacting mind. And a non-reacting mind is a learning mind. And such a mind then begins to see the defects, the doshas in the pursuit of artha, kamaha, and dharmaha for the sake of material results. So such a person is still ignorant. Such a person is not a jnani. Such a person is still in samsara only. But then he begins to figuratively burrow a hole out of this prison of samsara. Like we discussed that example that there is a prisoner, he finds some tool and he gradually starts to dig at the wall. So similarly, this person begins to uh, create a pathway out of samsara, even though he's still very much in samsara only. So now, what is this person able to see? This person sees this karma yogi. The karma yogi sees that all of these first three purusharthas, artha, we will take artha and kamaha now because it will be more obvious. What we are talking about will be more obvious in case of artha and kamaha, and we will see this with respect. Somehow I got muted. Okay.
Now it's fine.
Yeah.
It's
Now
fine.
So did you miss a lot of what I said, or?
No,
Okay.
not much.
No.
Just for 10 seconds, maybe.
Okay. So this person is able to see that artha, pursuit of artha, and pursuit of kamaha, and pursuit of dharmaha for the sake of artha and kamaha. This person is able to see that there are these three doshas with everything that we talked about. The first dosha is called dukkha mishritatvam. That everything is mixed with sorrow. So everything may give me pleasure, fine, but it also gives me sorrow, and the sorrow that it gives is actually proportional to the pleasure the thing gives, or the relationship, whatever it is. Dukkha mishritatvam is the first dosha. The second dosha that this karma yogi sees is that everything is associated with atriptikaratvam, that it cannot give me this triptihi that I am looking for. It leaves me unfulfilled. One goes from limitation to limitation. I remain a purnaha. So the first is dukkha mishritatvam. There is everything is mixed with sorrow. There is sorrow in acquisition. There is sorrow in maintenance. And then finally there is sorrow when the object or the relationship comes to its expiry date. Atripti karatvam, it leaves me unfulfilled. And the third dosha is called bandhakatvam, that it leaves me enslaved. Basically, I acquire all these things, but then luxuries become necessities. That's what modern lifestyle is about. That luxuries that were there, things that were considered luxuries in the 1940s or 1970s, they have become necessities now. This is what we have been calling progress or development. A lot of progress or development is about converting luxuries to necessities. So these luxuries get converted into necessities. I become more dependent on things. And like we said, the world has got these three U's: unpredictability, uncontrollability, unsustainability. So something or the other will go wrong, and something or the other goes wrong. That gives me dukkha. So there are these three doshas: dukkha mishritatvam, atriptikaratvam, and bandhakatvam. So this karma yogi is able to discern these three doshas. Then what about dharma? We said that it is clear if the dharma is for the pursuit of artha and kamaha, it has these three doshas as well. Now, if we take dharma itself, right, then what is dharma? It is this punya and papa that we talked about. And the punya and papa are the result of action. And every action is limited. Therefore, each of the karma phalam that the action produces is also limited. So punyam is limited, papam is also limited. But then one thinks that if I pursue punyam, then perhaps it will take me to a very good situation, right? From where I may be able to avoid all of this sorrow. Which is true to some extent, that punyam can produce conducive situations, and the conducive situations provide happiness like we saw. Right? But then the punyam is also limited. Therefore, it is time bound. And when the punyam ends, the departing punyam takes away the conducive situation. And when we say it takes away the conducive situation, then what it means is one comes into an unconducive situation. So this transition creates sorrow. When the punyam is exhausted, that exhausting punyam produces sorrow. So the Veda says that this highest material result that punyam can produce is Swargaloka, where there's an abundance of artha and kamaha and enjoyments and all that. And then it is a highly conducive situation if you think about it from a materialist's perspective. When the Chandogya Upanishad says, Tadyatheha karmachito lokah kshiyate evam amutra punyachito lokah kshiyate. So just as we see the results of punyam depleting away in our current life, here in this world, where we say that a certain situation is produced out of punyam, just as that situation goes away. Or this human being is born because of a mixture of punya and papa. When the prarabdha karma gets exhausted, the body goes away. So the same thing happens in the other world also, says the Chandogya Upanishad. The Bhagavad Gītā says, Brahma bhuvanal lokaha punaravartino arjuna. Brahma bhuvanat lokaha punaravartinaha Arjuna says Gita. That all the lokas from Brahma Loka up to Brahma Loka, all the lokas, they are all of the nature where one has to come back from it. So Bhagavad Gita says, Tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam kshine punye martyalokam vishanti. So once one goes to Swargaloka, for example, or any of these lokas, once one goes there, when the punyam is exhausted, one goes there because of punyam. When the punyam is exhausted, one has to come back. Kshine punye martyalokam vishanti. One has to come back to this world of mortals. So if we imagine somebody who has accumulated a lot of punyam in this loka, let us say, then this person is transported to Swargaloka after death. But then what our Shastras say is that once this punyam is exhausted, one has to come back. So if we look at this person's trajectory, the religious materialist trajectory, for example, if this person accumulates a lot of karma, this person may go to higher lokas. But then when the punyam is exhausted, one comes back into this cycle. So in case of the pure materialist, we have talked about cycles involving lower life forms. But in case of the religious materialist, or even the religious spiritualist, there are cycles involving these higher lokas. One goes to these higher lokas and then one comes back. So basically, all of these first three Purusharthas, they are all of the nature in which one remains apurnaha, because once one comes back from the higher loka, one is still confronted with one's apurnatvam in this loka. On the other hand, like we said, the highest spiritual result that dharma purushartha can give is this mindset where one is able to see the doshas, the three doshas associated with artha, kamaha, and dharma. The highest material result that dharma can give is artha and kamaha or swargaloka, etc. But the highest spiritual result that dharma can give is this mindset where one is able to see the doshas of artha, kamaha, and dharma in terms of giving me purnatva. So this is what is called chitta shuddhi. This mindset where one is able to see these three doshas is chitta shuddhi. And this is the highest spiritual result that dharma purushartha can give. So this person is now able to see that everything in this world is like this shoe. When I'm walking on a path barefoot, there may be stones and thorns that bite me. So I feel a certain sorrow because of the shoes and because of the thorns and stones. So this person gets a shoe, and wearing the shoe, one is able to walk, and doesn't feel the biting of the stones and the thorns. But then the shoe itself starts to bite me. So then this person still feels, oh, without the shoe I was apurnaha, with the shoe also I am apurnaha. This person sees that everything in this world, this body, his mind, the family, the possessions, the profession, whatever it is, everything, none of it can give me this purnatva. Swamiji says that if you are asked to make a list of things that make you happy and another list of things that make you sad, he says don't bother making two lists. Just make one list. That is enough. The list of things that we say will make us happy, the same list of things will also make us sad. So this is true of all the artha, kamaha, and dharma accomplishments. And this karma yogi, this person who has gained this chitta shuddhi, is able to see this. So this understanding, we say, is a key milestone. The original problem I have been trying to solve is I want to be happy, secure. I want to be purnaha. And then I have been busy pursuing this, pursuing that, pursuing this, pursuing that. But then all of these things related to artha, kamaha, and dharma, I have not been able to solve this problem. All they can give me are some fleeting moments of fulfillment. But then I'm still saying, I need to become happy, I need to become secure, I need to become purnaha. So this is where we saw the example in the last class. They're like running on a treadmill. Or it's running in a race where the finish line is constantly moving away from me. The Kathopanishad says, Nahi vittena tarpaniyo manushyaha. Vittena, nahi vittena tarpaniyo manushyaha. No matter how much money you have, you can never get this triptihi, this total fulfillment from it. In fact, we saw this one of the richest people in the world. He underwent a painful divorce, and he cried in one of his interviews. So we can see, right, all of this in front of our eyes, that vittena nahi tarpaniyo manushyaha. Money can buy a lot of things, money can buy a lot of comforts, but money cannot buy this security and happiness that I am looking for, the lasting security and happiness. So if I expect things of the world to give me security and happiness. We have seen that is a mistake. They don't have any security and happiness to give. The world, Swamiji says, the world has beauty, the world has variety, the world has novelty, but it has no stability. So one can live in this world, one can experience this world all right. But if one starts to emotionally lean on this world, then that is a mistake, because the world has no stability. So Swamiji gives this example of a beautifully decorated cardboard chair. So there's this beautifully decorated cardboard chair, which has all this, jewelry and nice colors and all that. It looks very beautiful. You can perhaps put some, Golu doll or something on it and put it in your showcase. But then if you try to sit on it, what will happen? It will collapse. So he says this world is like a cardboard chair. Just you can appreciate it, you can experience it, but don't sit on it. So as we saw, not everybody is able to discern this problem. And this understanding is the key point in this trajectory of the jiva across lifetimes. Because the trajectory of the jiva across lifetimes, you have seen, you and I have been here forever. We saw this in the few classes ago. We were discussing during the Q&A. Even though we have not come to this topic formally in our study, we discussed that jiva has been around forever and has been going around in this circle, the samsara chakra, either transitioning into lower life forms and coming back into a human form, or transitioning to higher lokas and coming back. But basically, it's been this long cycle and never-ending cycle. So this discernment, this understanding is the key point where the trajectory begins to change. So now he knows that more of the same is just not going to work. And now he says that I need something that is fundamentally different. He understood that each action is limited, the results of the action are limited, and I am limited. I see myself in my vision, I am limited. I am apurnaha. So if I accumulate a few limited things around me, that's not going to lead me to this purnatva. Somehow limited things will always be limited. So then he starts to question that this pursuit of artha, this pursuit of kamaha, this pursuit of dharmaha, if this has not given me this purnatvam, then what else can? So this punya, we are saying this person has led a dharmic lifestyle. He is a karma yogi. He has led a lifestyle of dharma, and then he has seen the limitations of all this. And the punya that he has accumulated, this punya gives this person the courage to question and explore something else. So when this person comes to this point, is there something else that will give me this purnatvam that I have been seeking? When this person comes to this point, when the person asks this question, at that point the Veda Purva that taught him dharma, the Veda Purva says that I'm finally happy you are asking this question. Because by bringing you to this point, I have done my job. If we recall the Anubandha Chatushtayam of the Veda Purva, we distinguished it from the Anubandha Chatushtayam of Vedanta. We said the Vishaya of Veda Purva is all these duties, values, and attitudes. That is the Vishaya of Veda Purva. We said the Adhikari for Veda Purva is somebody who is seeking Artha, Kama, and Dharma. And we said the Sambandha is that one has to gain the knowledge of these duties, values, and attitudes and do the Anushtanam of it. And we said the Prayojanam of Veda Purva is this Artha, Kama, and Dharma for a materialist. For a religious materialist, it's Artha, Kama, and Dharma. But for a religious spiritualist, it is the Chitta Shuddhi. So the Veda Purva says, by bringing you to this Chitta Shuddhi, where you are asking this question, where you are exploring something else, I have done my job. Now I cannot give you what you are asking for. And for this, you have to approach Vedanta. So this brings this person to moksha, the pursuit of moksha. And moksha is this unconditional fulfillment, purnatvam. And now this person sees that I have been seeking this full purnatvam through artha, through kamaha, through dharmaha, but now he is told by Vedanta that you need to seek this purnatvam directly. And this is how one becomes a seeker of moksha, a seeker of this purnatvam. So underlying, as we saw in the very first class, underlying the pursuit of artha, kamaha and dharmaha is this urge for purnatvam only. Everybody is in fact seeking this purnatvam only. But those who have not discerned the problem of samsara, they will continue to seek this purnatvam unsuccessfully through these first three purusharthas. And if one feels that I have to seek artha, I have to seek kamaha, I have to seek dharmaha, we don't come in the way. We say, if you really seek, if you really feel that, go pursue that. Because that person needs that experience and needs the understanding that comes out of that experience to realize its limitations. So we say, go ahead, pursue that if you feel like. But then sooner or later we say that one has to come to this point where one sees the limitations of these first three purusharthas and where one discerns the problem of samsara, which is an endless, futile struggle for fulfillment through the first three purusharthas. And only when one has discerned this problem will the spiritual hunger arise for the Moksha Purushartha. So I'll quickly go through this mantra that I had sent on the WhatsApp, which is the Mundaka Upanishad mantra. So that says, Pariksha Lokan Karmachitan Brahmano Nirvedamayat Nasti Akritah Kritena Tad Vijnanatham Sa Gurumeva Bhigachet Samitpanihi Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. So whatever we talked about is essentially a commentary on this mantra only. So the mantra says Pariksha Lokan Karmachitan. Pariksha Karmachitan Lokan. So Pariksha means having examined. Having examined what? Karmachitan Lokan. All these worlds that can be gained through karma. What are the worlds that can be? What are the experiences that can be gained through karma? The experiences that can be gained through karma, the purushartha that can be gained through karma are basically artha, kamaha, and dharma. So having examined karmachitan lokan, having examined artha, kamaha, and dharma, and lokan, whatever world this dharma purushartha can give me, which also includes swargaloka, etc. Having examined this, brahmanaha nirvedamayat. Brahmanaha here means a discriminating person, a person who has got this chitta shuddhi and who is able to see the limitations of these first three purusharthas. Brahmanaha nirvedamayat. Nirvedam means one comes to a certain dispassion. Earlier, one was passionately pursuing artha, kama, and dharma, and what was fueling this passion was this idea that I'll get purnatvam, some fulfillment out of it. But now he becomes dispassionate towards it. He says that these three purusharthas are not able to give me what I want. Nirvedamayat. Nasti akritah kritena. That this akritaha means this unconditional fulfillment, Brahman moksha. Akritaha nasti kritena. Through action, it cannot be accomplished. Nirvedamayat, Upanishad says that one should come to this dispassion. Having examined karmachitan lokan, having examined what these three purusharthas can lead to. And then it says tad vijnanatham, for the sake of knowing this moksha purushartha, what Brahman is, what moksha is, and what this purnatvam is. So here the Upanishad changes the language. It says tad vijnanatham, in order to know that. So it doesn't bring in action here. It says tad vijnanatham sa gurumeva abhigachet. May this person go to a guru. Sa gurum eva abhigachet. May this person approach a guru. It says eva, gurumeva abhigachet. Nothing else is going to work. Gurumeva abhigachet. Samit panihi, with dry sticks in this person's hand. Samit panihi. We see this brahmachari does this samitadhanam ritual. We call it samit adhanam, samidadhanam. There the brahmachari puts these dry sticks into the fire. Why dry sticks? Because they catch fire. If the stick is wet, then the stick will not easily catch fire. So what these dry sticks symbolize is this dryness, this passion this person has got. Only such a person will be able to catch this fire of knowledge. Samit panihi shrotriyam brahmanishtham. What type of guru he should go to? Should be a shrotriya guru, somebody who understands the message of the Shastra. Somebody who has studied the Shastra. How did this person study the Shastra? Under his guru. So he says, go to a guru who is a parampara guru, somebody who has been associated with a guru from the Guru Shishya Parampara, Shrotriyam, Brahmanishtham, and somebody who abides in this teaching. Brahmanishtham, who has this Jnana-nishtha, who is abiding in this Jnanam, go to such a guru, because only such a guru can bring you to this Purnatma. So at this point, this person has become a seeker of moksha, and the Upanishad asks him to approach a guru. So we have answered the question about how this person becomes a mumukshu. That's the first answer. Pujya Swamiji says this is called Purushartha Nishchayaha. A clear idea that this is what I want to pursue. This moksha is going to give me what I want. Nothing else can. So with this, I'll conclude the class today. And we'll continue in the next class with the second question about how one becomes a jignasu. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. We'll have time for a few questions and comments, maybe another 5-10 minutes.
I have one question,
Yeah.
but I don't know how to put it. It might sound a little offending, but I don't have a better way of phrasing this question. So excuse me for that.
Yeah.
What we realize is, having a dispassionate attitude or a mental state in performing our action is what leads us to moksha. But much of it happens in due course of our life also. So, for example, take the example of a child which he gets its happiness from the wrapper in which the toy was wrapped in. And then the toy gives it some happiness. After that, the child moves from, very kid age to teenage. Gadgets give happiness and the toy doesn't give happiness. So at this point in time, the child is dispassionate towards a toy. But it doesn't matter to the teen whether it gets a toy or not. It has graduated from a toy to a gadget. And as we move further, gadgets don't excite us. Maybe wealth or asset does. So progressively, as we move in our age, we move away from some of it, and it happens naturally, without any even active thought of doing even need to know about moksha or not. I'm anyway graduating in that life. That is one level. Second is, even within a stage, due to decreasing utility of margin, decreasing returns of marginal utility, the fifth gadget doesn't give me the same level of happiness like the first or the second. The fifth house that I buy does not give me the same happiness as the first or the second. So it anyway happens for us, right? And what I gather from all, I'm still interested in Vedanta, but I'm just saying, if for a person who's outside Vedanta or outside our classes and outside our school of thought, what we are actually saying is just be removed from that act. Don't think whether you're happy or not. That's what matters, right? I mean, so we are trying to mentally disassociate it, associate ourselves from a particular, job or a toy or an activity or whatever. So if I don't have to think about whether should I be happy or not, I'm anyway in that state, right? So this is very similar to being in a vegetative state. For example, if I'm in coma, I don't care what happens around me. I'm anyway in that state, right? So is there a difference between I being in a vegetative state and I being in a moksha state or going towards moksha state? Is it very similar to, because if I have to do something dispassionately, it's equivalent to just going through the motion. So is this and moksha one and the same or not? Sorry to frame it like this.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. I think you asked a few different, you brought up a few different points there. So one of the things that Vedanta says, right, is that Janma itself, right? Janma itself has a certain dukkha element to it. We all celebrate Janma, and that is one point certainly. But then Janma is always followed by Jara, old age, Vyadhihi, and Mrityu. And when that comes, that causes a lot of suffering. So even if somebody who thinks that one is growing up, right? Because I am now dispassionate towards balloons and dispassionate towards objects. When this person has to confront Jara, Vyadhihi, and Mrityuhu, it brings enormous suffering. And like we said, even I gave the example of one of the richest people in the world who went through a painful event in life. Right? That brought a lot of suffering. So one doesn't have to wait for Janma, Jara, Mrityu, and Vyadhi. There are various situations in life itself that bring a lot of suffering. Right? So what are the tools that I have in order to deal with this suffering? Right? So you had some point.
Yeah, correct. So this suffering happens because I know I'm suffering, right? When I associate with, okay, what I'm going through is not the ideal situation. That ideal situation is somewhere else. And because of that, I suffer. But if I'm in coma, let's say I fall in coma tonight, and I go through my rest of my old age in coma itself, where without a realization of what happens to me, I don't even feel the pain or the joy of. Is this equivalent to moksha?
No, it's not, because see, even if we take the example of coma or deep sleep, right? In deep sleep, you forget everything for some time, right? But then one arises from one's deep sleep. So in this case, the rising from the deep sleep is again because of our karmas only. So a person who goes into coma, for example, they're exhausting some of the karmas. But then a lot of karmas, we will get into this more when we discuss the law of karma. So the karmas, unexhausted karmas are all there waiting. So death, if this person dies also, then there is punarjanma. So this cycle never ends. And the only way Vedanta says that the cycle of samsara ends is through moksha. So even if somebody temporarily goes into states of mind where one is not aware of it, and even if you take nirvikalpaka samadhi, right, again, that is a state of mind in which one transcends, one goes into a samadhi experience. So Vedanta analyzes all of this: deep sleep, coma, unconscious state, samadhi, right? In all of that, one is in some ways escaping from the world.
Correct, correct.
But then what Vedanta says that is a temporary escape only. You will have to confront the world again. And when you have to confront the world again, it will bring suffering.
Okay. Okay. Okay, understood. So I can be under anesthesia when I'm being operated upon. So it gives me temporary relief against this pain of being operated upon. But the moment this wears off, then I get back.
Yeah.
So even if I'm in coma, I don't feel anything I'm going through in my life.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
In fact, there are all these, interesting things about there's a lot of literature out there about near-death experiences and all that.
Yes.
Where a person is said to be in coma medically, right? But even though the person is said to be in coma medically, the person says, I recalled everything that was there, right? So that person is still intensely aware of various things according to the study of these NDEs.
Right. Thank you. You refer to Dr. Sam Pernia's experiments, right?
I think you had also sent me some of those studies.
Okay. Thank you.
Sri Krishna, I just wanted to make one more point on what you're saying. That the kid is gradually overcoming one of the other, and but the point is he's overcoming one of the other, the gratification of things, but he's pursuing new things. It is not the end of it. If you are outgrowing something, and if that is the end of it, then you have reached moksha, but you're not ending there. Right. You're moving forward and acquiring something new. And so that is the samsara is continuing. The cycle is still going on.
True. Very true.
And that vegetative state, initially, my initial understanding when I was young and, thinking about this karma yoga, that is what I thought. It is leading me to karma yoga, vegetative state. So what it is saying is, oh, don't do anything. Well, it's frustrating. And of course, because of not understanding it properly. I think that is where a guru makes a lot of difference.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks to both of you.
There is that shloka in Bhagavad Gītā, right? You see action in inaction, and that is the key, where you cannot be in inaction. That's not what Bhagavan is saying. You cannot be in a vegetative state and be in inaction. You have to be in action and be in sthita prajna state, be calm. Your dharma is to act, whatever is your dharma, so you have to act. So there's no escape from that.
Thank you.
Yes. Pujya Swamiji also says with regards to that shloka, that even if a person is, for example, saying, I am standing on one leg, right, closing my eyes, and in that posture one is standing, then also that the person is still breathing, the person is still standing. There is actually no time when a person is not doing any karma at all. Even though one may say I'm not doing karma, there is still that standing on one leg that is happening, which is the karma. And as Balaji mentioned, this child growing out, right? The way we have phrased it is that one remains apurnaha. And as long as one has this conclusion that I am apurnaha, one will be driven to do something or the other, because I cannot stand my apurnatva. I cannot stand, I cannot be comfortable not being complete. If I sense some incompleteness, I have to do something about it. This is a very fundamental urge. So whatever one does, as long as this conclusion is there, one is still in samsara.
True. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Anything else?
One small comment about the earlier thing about, going from one, let's say, enjoyment to the next one. I suppose another way to look at it is, have I realized that, I'm going from one toy to the next? Do I have the awareness of that I'm actually going from one toy to the next? At a stage when I'm just going from one toy to the next, I may not realize that actually I'm going left the previous toy behind and going to the next toy. So when I have the awareness, maybe it brings in some difference. I mean, that's probably one way of putting it.
Yeah, like we said, a person who doesn't have this chitta shuddhi, the person feels it is very natural to go from one toy to the next, because that is the only way I can get some fulfillment. But a person who has arrived at this milestone called chitta shuddhi, that person is able to clearly discern that there is no logical conclusion to this entire chain of hopping from one toy to the next.
He doesn't need a toy anymore.
Well, he is still feeling apurnaha. So he feels that I have to do something about it. But he sees that moving from one toy to the next is not the solution. And that is why he is asked to approach a guru who can then guide him on how one has to attain this purnatvam without any of the toys.
Right. Understood. Right.
So shall we conclude then?
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for pitching in.
Hari Om.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.